Today, we are diving deep into one of the most shocking geopolitical shifts happening in Europe. Right now, Russia's Baltic power is crumbling, and Denmark's latest move has completely changed the game. What seemed like a routine political maneuver has turned into one of the biggest blows to Russia's influence in the Baltic Sea in decades. From trade routes to naval dominance, the balance of power is shifting, and it's not in Moscow's favor. Let's unpack exactly what's happening, why it matters, and how Denmark quietly outmaneuvered Russia in a way no one expected. For years, Russia has maintained a tight grip over the Baltic region. The area is crucial not just for trade, but also for military strategy. The Baltic Sea connects Russia to key European markets, and its ports, like St. Petersburg and Kaliningrad, are vital for the movement of goods, energy supplies, and naval operations. But now, with Denmark stepping in to assert more control over its surrounding waters and international shipping lanes, that dominance is being threatened like never before. Denmark's move wasn't just symbolic, it was strategic. The country's position at the gateway to the Baltic Sea gives it an enormous amount of leverage. Every ship that enters or leaves the Baltic must pass through the Danish Straits, a narrow choke point that Denmark effectively controls. This makes it one of the most important maritime passages in the world. By tightening regulations, increasing inspections, and aligning more closely with NATO's strategic goals, Denmark has placed immense pressure on Russia's ability to operate freely in the region. This didn't happen overnight. The tension between Denmark and Russia has been building for years. Ever since the 2014 annexation of Crimea and the subsequent tensions with NATO, European nations have become more cautious of Russian maritime movements. Denmark, being a NATO member, has played a vital role in monitoring and controlling naval traffic in the Baltic. But recently, Denmark has gone beyond monitoring. It's taken active steps to limit Russian access to certain routes and to strengthen its naval cooperation with neighboring countries like Sweden, Finland, and Germany. One of the most significant developments came after Finland and Sweden joined NATO. This completely changed the power dynamics in the north. Russia's once comfortable position in the Baltic Sea suddenly became surrounded by NATO nations. And with Denmark's firm control over the Danish Straits, Russia is effectively boxed in. Every naval movement from St. Petersburg or Kaliningrad now has to go through waters either controlled or heavily monitored by NATO members. That's a nightmare scenario for Moscow's military planners. Denmark's government has also been ramping up its defense spending and investing heavily in maritime surveillance systems. These aren't just routine upgrades, they're part of a deliberate strategy to ensure that every vessel passing through the Baltic is tracked, analyzed, and, if necessary, restricted. Russia's ships, especially those carrying military supplies or energy cargo, are now facing more scrutiny than ever. Energy transport has been another critical area where Denmark's actions have hit Russia hard. After the Nord Stream pipeline sabotage and the growing energy crisis in Europe, Denmark began working closely with other European states to diversify energy routes and reduce dependency on Russian gas. By supporting new infrastructure projects and renewable energy corridors, Denmark has effectively weakened one of Russia's biggest tools of influence, its control over Europe's energy supply. This is what makes Denmark's move so powerful. It's not an open act of aggression, but a smart, strategic play that cuts deep into Russia's capabilities without a single shot being fired. It's a demonstration of how smaller countries can use geography, diplomacy, and alliances to counterbalance major powers. And for Russia, it's becoming clear that military strength alone isn't enough to maintain dominance. The Danish military has also stepped up patrols in the Baltic Sea, working closely with NATO forces to ensure security in the region. Joint exercises, intelligence sharing, and rapid deployment drills have become more frequent. Each of these actions sends a clear signal Denmark and its allies are ready to defend the Baltic region against any potential threats. This unified approach has cornered Russia diplomatically and militarily. Moscow has not taken this lightly. Russian officials have accused Denmark of acting under NATO pressure and undermining regional stability. But the truth is, Denmark's actions are a direct response to years of Russian aggression and intimidation. From cyber attacks to airspace violations, Russia's behavior has forced European nations to take a tougher stance, and Denmark, with its crucial location and strong alliances, has become one of the frontline defenders of Europe's maritime security. The collapse of Russia's Baltic influence is not just a military issue, it's also economic. The Baltic Sea routes are essential for Russian trade, especially as sanctions have isolated the country from much of the global economy. With Denmark tightening control, shipping costs are rising, delays are increasing, and insurance premiums for Russian vessels have skyrocketed. Every additional restriction eats into Russia's already struggling economy. Moreover, Russia's isolation is compounded by the loss of political leverage. In the past, Moscow used the Baltic Sea as a way to project power, showing its navy, flexing muscles, and reminding Europe of its reach. Now, with Denmark's oversight and NATO's dominance, those symbolic displays have lost their impact. The Russian Baltic Fleet is still there, but its movements are watched, limited, and strategically contained. Denmark's intelligence community has also played a major role in this shift. Danish security services have been among the first in Europe to expose Russian espionage operations, disinformation campaigns, and sabotage attempts. By countering these efforts early and publicly, Denmark has built credibility within NATO and positioned itself as a leader in countering hybrid warfare. Another interesting aspect is Denmark's coordination with Sweden and Finland, two countries that share similar concerns about Russian activities in the Baltic region. This Nordic alliance, informal but highly effective, has created a powerful regional front. They share data, conduct joint naval exercises, and even coordinate on defense technologies. Together, they've made it extremely difficult for Russia to operate unseen or unchecked in Northern Europe. The symbolism of Denmark's move cannot be underestimated either. For decades, Russia saw smaller European countries as politically weak or easily influenced. But Denmark has proven otherwise. With careful planning and unwavering commitment to security, it's shown that even a small nation can reshape regional power dynamics when backed by strong alliances and strategic thinking. Inside Russia, the effects of this are being felt. Analysts in Moscow are increasingly warning that the Baltic region, once considered a safe zone for Russian naval activity, is now one of the most vulnerable fronts. Kaliningrad, in particular, is becoming an isolated outpost. Surrounded by NATO nations and cut off from easy sea access, it's turning into a logistical challenge for Russia rather than a strategic asset. The Danish parliament has also approved several new defense initiatives aimed at bolstering coastal defense, improving maritime radar systems, and modernizing naval capabilities. These upgrades ensure that Denmark can detect and respond to any threats in real time. Combined with NATO's expanded presence, the Baltic Sea has become one of the most monitored maritime regions in the world. This unprecedented level of control means Russia has fewer options. It can no longer move freely, threaten European nations, or use its navy for intimidation tactics without being noticed. The message is clear: the Baltic Sea is no longer a playground for Russian power projection. Instead, it's becoming a tightly secured zone under Western influence. Even Russia's allies are beginning to see the cracks. Countries that once viewed Moscow as a reliable partner are watching its decline in the Baltic with growing concern. The inability to maintain control over such a crucial region undermines Russia's global image as a maritime and military power. It also raises questions about how long Russia can sustain its operations with mounting economic and logistical pressure. Denmark's success lies in its subtlety. There was no grand announcement, no dramatic confrontation. Instead, it used its existing strengths, geography, diplomacy, and intelligence to gradually squeeze Russia's influence. This kind of silent power is often more effective than open conflict, and it's teaching the world a valuable lesson about modern geopolitics. What's also remarkable is how Denmark has maintained public support for these measures. The Danish people understand the importance of security in an increasingly unstable world. Public opinion has largely backed the government's tough stance on Russia, especially after seeing the consequences of aggression in Ukraine and the broader threats to European peace. Meanwhile, NATO's backing has given Denmark confidence and resources to expand its role. The alliance sees the Danish Straits as a critical choke point, and by working closely with Copenhagen, it ensures that Russia's naval movements remain under tight control. This cooperation has made Denmark not just a regional actor, but a key strategic player in the defense of Europe. As this situation evolves, one thing is becoming crystal clear: Russia's dominance in the Baltic is fading fast. Every new measure by Denmark, every joint exercise with NATO, and every restriction on Russian shipping brings Moscow one step closer to losing its grip entirely. The days when Russian warships could roam the Baltic unchallenged are gone. Now, Russia faces a choice: either adapt to this new reality or risk further isolation. But given Moscow's history of defiance and aggression, adaptation seems unlikely. Instead, we may see more provocations, more military posturing, and more propaganda aimed at masking the truth that Russia's power in the Baltic Sea is collapsing. For Denmark, this is a defining moment. Its actions have not only secured its own national interests, but also contributed significantly to Europe's collective defense. By standing firm, Denmark has proven that even small nations can play a decisive role in shaping global security. The ripple effects of this shift will be felt for years. Russia's reduced influence in the Baltic will affect trade patterns, military strategies, and diplomatic relations across the continent. It will also serve as a warning to other authoritarian regimes that geography and aggression alone cannot guarantee power. So as we watch this new chapter unfold, it's clear that Denmark's move marks a turning point in European history. The Baltic Sea, once a symbol of Russian strength, is now a testament to how strategic intelligence, unity, and determination can overcome even the most powerful adversaries. And that's where we stand today. Russia's Baltic power is crumbling. Denmark has taken a stand, and Europe is witnessing a shift that few thought possible just a decade ago. The question now is not whether Russia can recover its dominance, but how long it can endure the consequences of losing it. Thank you for watching. If you found this analysis informative, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into global power shifts and geopolitical updates. Stay tuned, the Baltic story is far from over.